So I started thinking about this thing well over a month ago, and this honestly has been the toughest presentation, the toughest speech that I've had to prepare. And the reason being is I was asked to think about what I'm passionate about and try to stimulate the idea of creating ideas, thought-provoking conversation. So I started. I went to my computer and I said, I have a little over a month to do this, so all I have to do is sit down every morning and write, I believe, 35 seconds worth of a speech, and I'll have it done. No problem. It was great. Sat down the first morning. I wrote what could be considered 35 seconds of a speech. It was okay. It was easy at the beginning. I said, I got to figure out what I'm passionate about, so I think that's what I wrote the first day. Second day, I sat, pretty much wrote the same thing. By the third day, I realized it wasn't going to work because I was getting absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. So then I happened to be across the street, actually, and I said, I got to talk to some people. I got to talk to people and find out, what do they, coach me a bit. Help me out here. What am I passionate about? So we're sitting, it was Norma Jean and Maya. We were sitting over at the VMP, or at the credit union boardroom, and we were doing something for holdings. So I just asked them, I said, what do you think I'm passionate about? Maya said, well, you got 5 kids. You got to be passionate about your kids. And I said, sure, of course I'm passionate about my kids. But who isn't passionate about their kids? Is that something that I can sit and have a conversation with folks for 18 minutes? Don't think so. It's not going to work. So I talked to other people. And other people kept throwing ideas at me. And I said, yeah, those things all are things that I'm probably passionate about. But I don't think it's going to be very interesting. I really don't. So I sat there and I worked on that, and I really got absolutely nowhere. Next thing I did, I went to, I have to do this here. I said, well, what does passion really mean? So I went to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia gave me 5 definitions. I pulled 2 out. The first was having, compelled by, or ruled by intense emotion or strong feeling. Well, I guess that's what passion is. The second one, easily aroused to or influenced by sexual desire, ardently sensual. Well, that's going to make for an interesting conversation. So I decided I was going to talk about that. And then Sandra told me, we're bringing the 2 youngest kids. I said, I guess I can't talk about that. The conclusion I came to is what I'm probably passionate about is what consumes my brain space. What do I think about a lot? And I decided I'm going to share that with you. If you create some thought and you think there's some ideas to come from it, well, that's great. I don't think there will, but we'll see. So I apologize in advance for what I'm going to talk about because it's kind of weird, but it is what consumes my brain. Okay? It's what I think about most through the week. 5 things. In no particular order of importance or priority. This is my dog. I'm going to tell you a little story about my dog. We had another dog before this dog. This dog's about 6 years old now. And it was a great dog, but we didn't take very good care of it. We never took it for a walk. The kids didn't do what they were supposed to do. And essentially, the dog was left out on a chain, came in at night, and curled up with one of the kids, and that was it. It wasn't a great life for the dog. So after that dog passed away, and it was a sad day when the dog passed away, Carly and I. Actually, Carly was about 10 years old, and she wanted to come down with us when we had to take the dog down to the vet, and it was a sad day. But it was a pretty bold day for Carly, actually. I'm pretty proud of her for having done that. Anyway, I said, we're not going to do that again. No more dog, right? No more dog. That went on for about 2 years. The kids bugging, we want a dog, we want a dog. So I came up with an idea, okay? And the idea was, I said to the kids, 5 of them were home at the time, and I said, here's what you got to do to convince me that we can get a dog and that you guys will take care of a dog. We're going to create an imaginary dog. I said, you guys are going to decide amongst yourselves that you're going to walk this imaginary dog 3 times a day for 6 months. And if you do that, I will consider getting you a dog. Okay? This was a Sunday night. And I said to Sandra, I said, I give them till Wednesday. Okay? 3 months later, this imaginary dog was still being walked 3 times a day. That's our dog. Here's the other interesting thing about our dog. So we wanted to get a particular kind of dog so it wouldn't let hairs all over the place. A short-haired dog. So we had to go find a dog. We found a dog. We drove it home. Came from New Brunswick, actually. Dog came home. Shortly, Doug and I, the business was about 3 years in. We were in a place down Sydney River. It's a pretty small place. But I decided we weren't going to do to this dog what we did to the last dog. So I said, the dog needs some bonding, right? Kids are in school and everything else. So what did I end up doing? The dog came to work with me. Doug thought I was nuts. I absolutely thought I was nuts. He still thinks I'm nuts. And I'm sure he thinks I'm nuts now for talking about my dog. Anyway, for 2 weeks, the dog came down to work with me. A little tiny puppy, sat on my lap all day. Only when the dog started to get comfortable down there and started wandering around the equipment and everything else did I realize that that wasn't going to work. But what happened over those 2 weeks was that dog bonded with me and I bonded with that dog. We're close buddies now, and I can't believe that I sit there and say, it's one of my passions, but I do love my dog. That's number one. Number two, I don't really have to say anymore, and it's silly, but I watch the Toronto Maple Leafs play 3 hockey games a week, try not to miss them, 9 hours of my week, consumes a lot of my empty brain space time. It's got to be up there, has to be up there. And for anybody to say, I'm 47 years old now, to sit there and still follow a hockey team that is so bad, right? And I still believe they're going to make the playoffs this year, as I did last year, as I did the year before that. It's a passion. Again, no particular order. Obviously, my family. That's my sister-in-law, by the way. I'm not going to say too much about my family, except for the fact that last week, Steve Sutherland was interviewing me for New Dawn Holdings. And I said to Steve after we were done, I said, by the way, I met you a few years ago. I met you at a Christmas party at Doug's house. And he said, oh yeah, I remember that. He said, this was quite a few years ago. He said, you have 5 kids, don't you? Oh, geez, how do you remember that? How does he know that? There's not many families have 5 kids anymore, but I don't think we stand out that strongly. Anyway, he asked me a question, and he said, because, I'm sorry, I talked a little bit about my oldest 3 having gone off to school, so they're away from home now, and he said, is it harder when they're away or when they were home? And this is a really tough one for us. This is not a tough answer. The answer is very simple. The simple answer is, we worry sick about them when they're away. When you got them home, you think you can take care of them, right? And that's what I do. I worry about the kids. I don't know why. Probably don't have to. But it consumes a lot of my time. Thus, it's on the list. And obviously my wife there too. My wife who puts up with all the foolishness. I'm so fortunate that she comes from an entrepreneurial-based family. Her father was an entrepreneur. One of the, we go back to talk about Alexander Graham Bell, but in recent memory, one of the pioneers of innovation in our community, John Curry, who founded InterNav and Micronav. I think what Sandra got from that was the ability to have patience and understand things don't always go right, but you have some perseverance and you put up with the foolishness. And she's done that extremely well. And I think the fact that she comes from that background that we've been able to succeed with this thing. Enough said on the kids. That's a graduation hat, but it's about education. Sandra and I talk about this a lot, and I do want to talk seriously about something that is somewhat controversial for us. Sandra is very, very strong about her passion about education in this community and how the public education system has failed us. And it's really interesting that Joan's here because I wanted to just mention an interview that I heard on CBC a few weeks ago. I believe you did that, didn't you? On teachers and salaries, things like that? Yes. Yeah, it was you that did that. So there was this interview that was done, and the first thing that came out was, do you know that some teachers in our community make $80,000 a year? And so I thought about that. I was thinking about that as the interview went on, and it was good. It was framed up quite nicely. The gist of it was, Yeah, but we pay our best teachers $80,000 a year. Okay? It's great. I think teachers have a very important job in this community. They teach our young people. They are the future. $80,000? Sure. And I'm so glad and I'm so happy to hear we're saving those salaries for our best teachers. And then went on to explain how we know they're our best teachers. They are our best teachers for two reasons. They've worked 11 years in the field and they have a master's degree. I said, okay. I'm trying to relate that to my business, where we look and say, who are our best employees? Well, they certainly aren't necessarily the ones that have been there the longest, and they certainly aren't necessarily the ones that have been educated the most. It doesn't work that way. So the fundamental flaw that I just wanted to share with you, in our public education system, we need to present and produce some performance metrics. And it's very simple. How do you measure performance? All you have to do is look at the outcome of the level of capability and education in our students. Those that are performing above national standards. So let's pay $80,000 to all the good teachers, but let's really figure out who the good teachers are. Something I am passionate about, very passionate about, not as much as my wife, but we do talk about it a lot. That's number 4. Finally, protocase. Who knows protocase? Yeah, a few people. Okay. Here's one of the problems I had. I think I had this in my head pretty much straight out, but today at work, protocase. Well, fires happen. We have to go and have meetings. So I was really planning on going over this presentation 3 times. I was going to have it done, so I was going to know what I was going to say. I was going to have it all figured out. I had it figured out, but I just didn't have it well articulated. Anyway, fires came. We had to put some fires out. We had to have some meetings. They were very important meetings. Doug and I were both in a number of them today. So I get to do that. But what do I want to tell you about protocase in this confused way? Innovation, entrepreneurship. Okay? What does that mean? It's absolutely critical to our community. Our community doesn't understand innovation and entrepreneurship very well. Okay? We are in an economically depressed community. We need to fix that problem. How are we going to fix that problem? We have a history in this community of trying to solve that problem by sitting there and relying on either one source, be it the government, be it the big company that's coming in, not necessarily coming in, or the import of companies from away. Okay? We've been doing that for 100 years, we've been doing it for 50 years, we've been doing it for 20 years. It's not worked, it's not solved their problems. Okay? Problems. Branch plant importation. What happens when you see that? These companies come in, they set up, they employ people, sometimes they pay good salaries, sometimes they pay bad salaries. But at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems they have is that they make money and they take that money away. It leaves this community. It's problematic. So that money's not being spent in our stores, it's not being spent on Charlotte Street, it's not being spent at the theaters, it's not being spent at the restaurants. It is, but not in our community, it's being spent somewhere else. Homegrown, entrepreneurial-based, innovative-based startups. It's where this community needs to go. Protocase is a perfect example of that type of success and what it can do. We employ 50 people in Cape Breton. We pay good salaries. They're first family incomes, what I call first family incomes. I will never say the call centers are not a good thing to have in this community, but you can't build an economy around them because they do not generate enough first family incomes that you can raise families with. Okay? Protocase does. What we need to do is we need to figure out a way that we can create 100 protocases or 150 protocases. There was another comment that was made to me. I was in Halifax. I had to go sit in a economic strategic framework committee meeting. And a gentleman in Halifax said, we were talking about innovation, he said, oh yeah, RIM. Do you know I was up there? They employ 18,000 people and they're on like 6 different blocks in Waterloo. Yeah. Well, we can never do that here. That's what he said, we can never do that here. And I said to myself, first of all, Well, there's a defeatist attitude. Of course we're never going to do it here if you start with that type of attitude, right? Absolutely. Why can't we do it here? Well, there's no reason why we can't do it here. I'm not going to say it is going to happen. But here's something I'll just share with you, and I'm almost done here. Doug did a study on GDP. One of the things we looked at was the effect, extrapolated the effect of innovative-based companies and creating startups like a Protocase. And if you were to start 5 innovative-based startups a year, of which you took a normal average of successes and failures and ran those for 10 years, okay? The potential that that could have on our unemployment rate is over 10 years we could reduce the unemployment rate in this community by 3%. So, sorry, that's knocking it from whatever down by 3%. That is significant. It is really significant. We need to create awareness in this community about companies like Protocase and the need to create more of these. If I'm here to say anything to you folks today and about my passion, it's about the need for us to do that. I'm going to make 2 more comments. One of them is, how are we going to help create this awareness? My friend and business partner, Doug Milburn, I think it was Doug's idea, suggested to a group of us sitting around the office one day about creating awareness and innovation by tying it into art. Okay? And I think this is a great audience to be sharing this with. We're calling this Art in Innovation. And what we propose is that we will go out and we will raise some money and we will commission a series of works of art in this community. It is to stimulate discussion, stimulate ideas, talk about creativity, improve the look of our downtown community. We think that this is going to have a huge impact because we think beyond the fact that it's going to excite the artists in our community, it's going to excite the community in general, and it's also going to help raise the awareness about the importance of innovation in this community. Thank you very much.